like to call the regular meeting of the South Daytona City Council to order, October the 10th, Tuesday. Roll call, please, Deb.
Vice Mayor Young.
Here.
Councilwoman Long. Here. Councilwoman O'Neill. Here. Councilman Schoner.
Here.
Mayor Hall.
Here.
Mr. Simpson.
Here.
Mr. Yarbrough.
Present. Everybody would join me by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance with the invocation by Mr. Yarbrough. Follow. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings you've afforded this community. We pray, God, that you help us learn to love one another. And God, we ask that you assist these elected officials this evening in deliberating toward a better community for your kingdom here on this earth. In thy name we pray.
I need a motion to approve the minutes of September the 26th, 2017.
Move to approve.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Citizens to be heard. This is the part of the agenda where anyone in the audience that would like to speak on anything on the agenda, not on the agenda, or anything that's on your mind, please come forward. I see Janet, your hand up in the back. If you'll come up, state your name and address for the record, please.
Janet Kistner, 1639 Gulfview Boulevard, South Daytona. I would like to thank and let everybody know, I think our police department, our fire department, Public Works, all did an excellent job before the hurricane, during the hurricane, after the hurricane, after it was all done and over. Everybody up here did an excellent job as far as the parks were concerned and helping out down there on Palmetto. They needed help real bad. All right, now let's get down to something. Code enforcement. You just had a hurricane. Why are they out there throwing tickets at everybody on your door for having their stuff out in the front? You just had a hurricane. Your stuff is to be put out to the front, whatever you had. I felt bad for a lady here that lives in South Daytona. Was not me, it was somebody else. All right? Code enforcement stopped, tagged her on the door, left. All right, I talked to her. I said, bring it up here. Let them know. It's right after a hurricane. So she did. All right, she got it taken care of. Plain and simple. All right? Now, everybody knows after a hurricane, you put your stuff out. Whether it's trees, whatever it is, just get it out there. So that way when the haulers come through, you don't know when they're coming through. When they do come through, they got it. All right? But that's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Kathy, please come forward.
My name is Kathy Stafford. I live at 2201 South Palmetto Ave with my mother, my son, and my daughter-in-law. And yes, we do live on the river, but the hurricane problem didn't start on the river. It started inside our home and in front of our home. A little bit before 11 on the 10th, the toilets and the showers started flowing over. And I know that it was this time because my daughter sent a text. She was with us, sent a text to my son. At that point, they kept flowing and flowing. And it ended up with my sunken shower full of sewage, flowed over. My, this is one picture of the shower, but this is not the worst. My white tile in every bathroom was covered with sewer sludge. It seeped up into the cabinets. I'm not sure if this is one of the problems or a reason or whatever, but on the 4th of July, we own a piece of property across the road, and my son was mowing at that time, and he came back and told me there was water coming up out of the ground. So I called the city, and of course they were closed, and the emergency number that was on there was not working. So I called the fire department. The fire department came out, and they said it was a sewer. That was the 4th of July. 2 days before the hurricane, I called the city and asked them to please take away the barricades. There was still a hole around that sewer. There were lines in the ground, but they never did anything. Was that a problem? I don't know what caused the problem. All I know is the sewage flowed in my home all the way down South Meadow for hours. Then my son went in the garage thinking he can get his shop back, and he might start getting some of the water out until we realized it was not going anywhere. Well, at that point, my son's 23. He had worked very hard to get a brand new Subaru WRX, which was in the garage. 2017, my daughter-in-law's Ford Focus in the garage, and we had 5 cars outside, 3 of them 2017 to 2016, and 2 other cars. We had everything around the entire house sandbagged. We've been through a lot of hurricanes. My dad built the house in 1975, so we knew what to do. So he saw that water was beginning to seep in. He opened up the door, not the overhead, the walk-through door, which was also sandbagged, and he saw that the water was flowing not from the river. The water was flowing from South Palmetto, and it was flowing like a river, and it did not stop. We lost all 7 cars. We're not the only ones. I am here. A lot of people in South Palmetto are not here because they can't live in their houses anymore. They don't have a support system like I did, people to take down the walls. Right now, we have nothing in our house. We have walls cut out, nothing. Yes, we do live on the river, but a lot of this problem would not have been so bad if we did not flood from the road and if we did not have sewer coming up into our home for a good 6 hours. So that's all I have to say, but thank you.
Anybody else would like to? Paul, please.
My name is Paul Clockengay, and I live at 2131 South Palmetto. I experienced some of the same problems that Kathy was referring to, but not to that extent. I mean, we did get sewer back up into our tub and our shower downstairs, and a little bit on the floors. We were bailing that until like 2:33 in the morning. We didn't have to go very far. We just went out the front door and threw it out in the water. We did not get any surface water in there. But I've noticed over the years, it seems like the Palmetto sewer situation is progressively getting worse. We also own the 4plexes at the corner of 201 Ridge, and I know that there's been at least 4 times since I bought the place in '05 that their pumper truck has been down there because the easement on the north side that takes care of the strip mall overflows, and it runs through my parking lot. I've also registered a comment to Mr. Dillard in regards to that new sidewalk. That intersection of Palmetto and Ridge floods all the time now with that new 8-foot sidewalk that's been put in there with the curbs. It just feeds water all the way from the other side of US 1 down to that intersection. But my primary concern was tonight is the sewer. It just seems to be getting progressively worse, and I don't know if the city's added additional, homes on there, or Halifax Landings on there, or what the situation is. And I know we always get the reason the diesel went down and the pump station went down. And I know about 2:30 or 3 in the morning, it started coming up worse through the stools, and it just all of a sudden just, like somebody opened up a valve and it just went down. But, river water is one thing, but sewage, and the systems are supposed to be totally separate. I mean, I'm not telling you folks anything. I mean, it's supposed to be totally separate, and how that water gets in there, I hope the city could figure it out, because I know we've got like 4 neighbors now that's gonna eventually sell. They just, it's got to that point, and I hate to see it, because I love where we live, but, it's a real problem. It's getting to be a real problem. So that's all I've got to say.
Anyone else in the audience like to speak? Jenny, you got something else?
Sorry, I forgot one more thing. On Ridgewood, when you're coming north on Ridgewood, as soon as you cross over the light at Ridge Boulevard, we still have wires from the top up there that are hanging down on the road and the sidewalk. Could we please get it fixed? It is a safety issue. Thank you.
Anybody else? City Manager's report?
Yes, sir. Let me begin by trying to address some of the concerns that I just heard. First of all, Janet, we've reported that 100 times. It's not the cities. We don't have control over it, but I'll try again. The response from these privately owned utilities is not always timely. Let's talk about the sewer on South Palmetto. Yeah, we did lose power. Yes, we do have a problem with tides higher than traditionally backing up into our stormwater system. It seems to be more in the last 36 months than I can remember. We've never, since I've been here, had a 5.6 foot surge. It doesn't matter. The sewer system went out. It's going to find the lowest place and it's going to back up into it, period. We've relined that sewer system, and it's pretty tight, but when it's underwater, it's going to back up. It's going to find the lowest place it can find to back up. And unfortunately, some of the older homes, that's where it's going. Now, what has the city done? We have ordered backflow preventers. We're putting it into all the residents that's experienced it in the past. We finally found somebody that makes the things. You put it in the system, the outfall into the city system can go one way, it's not supposed to be able to go the other way. We have them in stock. If we can ever get the town picked up from the hurricane, we'll start installing them. And we know the homes that's reported to us, and that we can do the elevations and know the homes it's going to have and has experienced affluent backup. We have never experienced a flood like this, folks. Our systems went out. We couldn't even get down there with our equipment. And it doesn't mean that I can pass it all off. Yeah, the system backed up. It backed up in every city. I've talked to every city manager that's had a coastal issue. All of them have experienced sewer systems out and backing up. But that doesn't mean that we can't try to make it better. So those backflow preventers are in stock. They're going to be installed. We're still picking up debris, but we're going to get them installed. And that should significantly reduce it. There's nothing worse than that. I don't know what to tell you other than a lot of it is an act of God. Now, we have also in this budget, we have them ordered and installed new lift station pumps to try to keep up. I simply will sit up here and tell you, I don't know what to do when you have a 5.5 foot storm surge and I can't even get a fire truck down there. It's going to, when it starts going down, it's going to start coming up, but when it starts coming up, it's going to start going in the homes. It's going to inundate a system. All systems anywhere. Now, you may not want to hear that, but that doesn't, and it doesn't, I don't want to diminish the importance of trying to fix this. But I'm not so sure I have a solution to it. Now, I know what it must be like. I haven't ever experienced anything as severe. But can tell you that new pumps have been installed, which should help move that a little better, and backflow preventers are being installed at those properties that experienced backage. And that should keep that, at least city sewer, from getting back in there. The stormwater on the streets, that's coming up, most of it through the catch basins. And, you know, just the tides we seem to be getting. And hopefully we'll get out of this period and we'll get back to what used to be some normalcy. But I hate it. It makes me sick to my stomach. I just simply don't know how we would have prepared for that. We just weren't able to prepare for it. It's just not cost effective to prepare for every event that we have. It looks like we're going to be at a cycle of it. It looks like it's going to happen again. And yeah, I don't think we have any more dialogue. I can't talk back and forth. I just wanted to respond and tell the council that it isn't on deaf ears, and we are trying to be proactive.
Can I just say one thing? There's a lot.
Please come up.
Okay.
And I know David wants to say something.
There's vacant lots, and I don't know if this helps solve the problem, but there's vacant lots on the west side of Palmetto, which is not as more expensive. And maybe the city should think about buying some of those for retention areas, at least for the surface water. I'm still puzzled as to how the surface water gets into the sewer system.
I think we all.
And I know there's leaks, but, and
underwater.
and I know there's, well,
There isn't a system anywhere.
but I've seen the manholes pop off.
Let me finish. There isn't a system anywhere in the world that's completely airtight.
I understand.
And they got cracks, they got crevices. That groundwater starts coming up, it inundates the system. So it's very possible, but without even being totally underwater, that the system is overloaded. Go ahead, Ralph, I'm sorry.
Let me add a little bit to that. Beginning at Big Tree Road in Palmetto,
Yeah.
if you notice that the Palmetto going north was dried out faster than Palmetto going south.
Right.
Palmetto from Big Tree Road south is right at about elevation 4. The river came in at 5.6, so in effect what happened, in between the houses, the river came up, the lower points along the river, it's coming in, maybe not from the back at your place or Mrs. Stafford's place, but it comes in when you have a low point, like I say, at Big Tree Road. The road is level with the canal there, and as well as the park, as well as the neighboring property. It will come in there, and then it will travel down Palmetto Avenue and actually come in to the front of your house, because the back of your house is typically higher because you have swales between the homes in a lot of those places. Some areas they do. The same thing happened to my daughter's house. She flooded out. It came in from the front before it came in from the back.
But see, I didn't get any surface water in my house. I got sewage.
But what I'm saying
That's a
is,
little disgusting.
when the water comes up to 5.6, you got the 1.5 foot of water over your manhole covers. It's a no-win situation, you know. It's unfortunately.
Well, then I guess we all put backflow preventers in, and then that should discontinue that.
Well, that will help, and we did put years ago when we put manhole seal rings in, and that helps to some degree. And hopefully they're still there. But there's only so much you can do when it gets up 1.5 foot over the road. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. Well, that's
I
what I was-
empathize with you.
I would suggest maybe it was
situation.
some of those vacant lots on the west side of Palmetto. I know that they're there, whether
Yeah.
some of those would serve some of that purpose as far as retention water is
For
concerned.
retention water, it would probably help, but not with river water. I mean, it's your fighting Mother Nature. I
Hopefully it won't.
empathize totally with the situation. This storm has been the worst we've had ever. I've lived on the water for 45 years. So,
Well, I've been here since '98, and this is the worst I've seen it.
and this water came up 1.5 foot higher than it ever has in the past, in my experience. It's tough.
Yeah, well, like I say, we didn't have any surface water in the house, and sewage was the only thing we had to contend
Right.
with. It came real close. I'm glad it stopped when it did, so,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Kind of out of order there, David, but I know you got here late. I said kind of out of order, but you got here late, so please.
I'm always out of order. I live that way. I'm David Butler, 2185 South Palmetto. We moved in there about 1963, the year Kennedy was shot, but we bought the property much sooner than that. And my parents, 91 years old, born and raised here, 4 generations. I fished this area all my life, floundered it all my life. And the biggest issues that we have, I rode my boat plenty of times down Palmetto. Of course, the Palmetto's been raised. Many, many times it's been raised, okay? And the other side of Palmetto was always swamp. And of course, one night, my dad came home and he was mad because the council overnight, without any order, moved it to multifamily, okay? Which all of a sudden, all the big apartments and everything went in, 2-story, which created a lot of issues because we used to have nothing but good old swamp over there, all the way down to the Sea Zoo, okay? And then, as a boy growing up and coming back and forth to college, y'all closed in the culverts on Big Tree Road. You remember that? Yeah.
Before my time.
Well, the culverts, they used to be open ditches, Joe. They were open ditches.
On Palmetto, they were open.
No, Big Tree Road. All the way up Big Tree Road, they were open ditches.
From US 1 to...
I used to go up Big Tree Road in the ditches, go through the culvert underneath the US 1 bridge, go to the different businesses as a little boy, okay? So what we did is we closed up all the culverts on Big Tree Road. So, you know, now we got the Kenilworth Canal, and we had the Big Tree ditches, okay, which would overflow into the city. And then we have the other flow that y'all created, the dam and all the reservoirs and all the nice things for flooding and everything at the Reed Canal, okay? So you got Reed Canal, you got the Kenilworth Canal, and you got Big Tree Road. This isn't rocket science. Y'all closed in the culverts on Big Tree Road, and you took all the water from mid-South Daytona all the way down to Big Tree Road. Used to be all open ditches, you know where the tennis courts are at Palmetto and all that? Those were all big open ditches. And we ran all the water down all the way to Big Tree Road. That's when Palmetto started flooding. And it started coming in our garages. Okay? I can guarantee you that. And then what we've done is we've allowed the sewers to become culverts. And I know a lot of cities have, Daytona pays a lot of fines, other agencies all the way down pay a lot of fines. When it gets to the point where they can't handle the sewage anymore, you know where it goes, Joe.
Yeah, bypass.
It goes right to the river. It's been doing that since spring break. I mean, they get 100,000 people in here, and they say, let it go. You know that.
I know that, David.
And it slow down, and I won't even want to explain to you all the stuff I saw as a boy coming down the river because we couldn't handle the sewage. So what we've done now is we've allowed all this sewage, okay, and y'all can't pump it fast enough. Daytona backs up, and I don't know, is the condominium, the 12-story condominium on our feeder? Sure is. And you've got 12 stories, 600 units, okay, 12 stories high. I'm not a physicist, but I can tell you what, that's a lot of pressure, Joe.
I know it is.
And I think probably what we need to do is send that to Port Orange.
I just can't blame it. And David, I don't
want blame. You know what, we're here today, Joe, we're not here to blame.
Yeah. But
Okay, these are our homes. We've been paying high taxes, okay, the highest taxes in South Daytona on the river for years. This is not a blame game. What we want is we want something from you all saying, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to fix this. Or we're going to make some decisions to try and fix it. Because if y'all started 10 years ago, this would not be an issue and it wouldn't be a problem. But maybe what we need is annexation, okay? Because we certainly don't have this problem in Port Orange. Okay, they spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to help flooding and families, okay, Joe, and you know it. And so this is where we're at. I don't want to hear about excuses about why it's happening. I want a 10-year plan because I've lived in this home since 1963. I want my grandkids to grow up in this home. But you know what? Kathy and I, we're sick and tired of it. We're at a decision point. So you're going to run off, you know, and you're building beautiful medians with $3,000 palm trees. Well, you know what? That's like putting lipstick on a pig. Pretty soon you get storms like this and rain, and the lipstick gets washed off. And all people see is pigs. And I go up and down Palmetto. This is my home. No one loves South Daytona more. I was a principal here for 18 years. Okay? I know every kid, every family, and I grew up in this town. We want a 10-year plan, no excuses.
Attorney's report.
I was finished, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, sir.
I was just addressing a couple of items, unless you want to dismiss.
Nope, gotta go.
Anyway, I brought you up to speed on at least what we're trying to do to correct that problem in the future. I'd like for you to consider, if you would, is under new business, item E, which will be ratification of the PBA contract. They did pass it last Friday. Mr. Mayor, I don't think there's any objections. No. Okay. No objection. The status report on Irma. As all of you know, we started off with pitchforks and pickups because we didn't have the equipment. We couldn't get the contractors in here to honor their agreements. Suddenly, last Saturday, we woke up with 4 more haulers. It looks like we're going to be finished. Looks like we're going to be finished by Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to release Ashput. Everybody, we got 40 piles we've counted left in the city. And those 40 piles are being addressed. We're pretty much finished with Green Acres over there. Again, we've been hitting twice a week South Palmetto because more and more flooding material, C&D keeps coming out. We're having to pick it up in a timely manner. We still haven't received any notice when we'll get our money back from FEMA, who has sent it to the state. It's sitting up there in some hole we're trying to find to get. They did say they were releasing 4,000, but that's why 4,000 instead of 1.2 million, I can't tell you, nor can they. But they're trying to, people up there on our behalf are working on it. I provided for all of you, and I want you to take a look at it. I hope you got it in front of you, and scheduled events for the remainder of this year. I know that all of you got some travel plans, but it's great to see. It was great for all to get together last Saturday, and you got away before all the picks were taken, but working to clean up Reed Canal. I couldn't believe how quickly that came together. It was impressive. But I do encourage you to try to make these events if you can. Finally, your next council meeting is November the 14th. Same place. That's all I have to report, Mr. Mayor.
We have a tabled item. Hearing nothing, we'll move on to old business. Scott, if you would, 17-10.
Ordinance number 17-10 by title only for second and final reading. An ordinance of the City Council, City of South Daytona, Florida, amending section 16-19, local business tax receipt prerequisites, to provide a presumption of a rental agreement requiring a business tax receipt when a non-owner resides in a residential structure that the owner is not residing in the same residence at the same time, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody in the audience that's left that would like to speak about this issue, I'd like to speak against this issue. Seeing none, I bring it back to council for discussion and vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. New business now, ordinance 17-12. Please, Scott.
Ordinance number 17-12 by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the City Council, City of South Daytona, Florida, amending section 10-1.2 to provide a waiver of right to contest a city citation and a presumption that violations exist if violator fails to pay fine or request special magistrate hearing, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Motion, please.
Move to approve. Second.
Any comments, Mr. Yarborough?
Yes, all we're doing when you approve the authorization for code to issue some parking violation citations, we failed to put in a procedure that we think makes sense. So what we're asking you to do is just treat this like you would any other citation through the PD. If they want a hearing, we'll schedule it. Otherwise, expect a $5 fee or whatever it is to be paid, or promise to go and sin no more. That's all you're doing here.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 17-25, Scott, resolution, please.
Resolution number 17-25 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City of South Daytona, Florida, awarding truck rental agreements to the lowest responsible bidders, P&S Paving, Massey General Contractors, and Half Trucking Company, and authorize the city manager to execute said agreements for the rental of trucks which are to be used by city crews to transport hurricane debris from the rights-of-ways to the Tomoka landfill, thereby ensuring the public safety pursuant to Section 2-148 of the city's Code of Ordinances regulating emergency purchases.
Need a motion, please.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any discussion, Mr. Chairman?
We're just trying our best to do two things. One, keep you informed of what action we're taking, even if it is after the fact. And secondly, try to document to ensure FEMA compliance.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item E, consideration of approving a contract for financial management with services with Tetra Tech for Hurricane Irma. Chairman?
Yes. What we're doing here is the same thing we did for Hurricane Matthew. We found them to have a keen knowledge of FEMA applications and what they expect. And we have no reason to believe that they weren't successful getting 100% of that approved at the federal level that we asked for. And we think it's a good return on the investment. It averages around $5,000 after reimbursements, and it is eligible for reimbursement. So we're asking you to turn around and enter into another contract with our monitors.
They have a means to make them pay.
Yeah.
I wish they did.
I didn't hear you, I apologize.
Do they have a means to make them actually pay?
They at least got it out of the feds with us. We just get now our governor to get somebody in there to review these, and
I know.
it's just
It's
so
frustrating.
aggravating.
It's getting frustrating. That's all.
Need a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Consideration approving a lease to T-Mobile for partial utilization of the city-owned cell tower at 1770 Seagrave. Mr. Yarborough?
Yes. Scott is here also. We have worked hand in hand with the consultant, who's an attorney with Gary Robinson, Gary Resnick, who has experience with municipally owned cell towers, which we didn't think existed in the state of Florida. He also, incidentally, is the mayor of, what's that city down there? Manor, Wilton Manor? I believe so. Wilton Manor. Which I thought was interesting. Ran into him at the League of Cities conference. He says that's his hobby. But he has finally got one finished. It's ready for your ratification. I think Scott did a good job at his outline. He told you essentially what's in this, along with a lot of other items. He's asking you to approve it on condition of an exhibit in his final review and approval. But we hope to have that done this month, and then have AT&T to you next month, and that should wrap up these. By comparison, I think, what was it? We were getting $600 a month from Crown, who was managing the tower for us for 25 years.
Well, they weren't managing it, they owned it. They leased the land from us.
Leased it, yeah, leased and managed it, but I don't know what they did for managing. They collected the lease
Yeah.
and paid us $600 a month.
It may have been a little bit more. They were offering $1,600 to renew it if we would renew the land lease with them, which, as you know, we chose not to. And this one's $3,000 a month, just for one of the locators.
And they maintain the tower. That's the way I read it. Is that right?
They maintain their aspect of the tower. We're going to have to pay some property taxes on the part of the tower that's not theirs. and we may have to do maintenance on the tower.
The actual structure.
The structure, yeah. Once we get these in place, then, our next discussion is what do we do with it? Do we keep it, or dispose of all, or dispose of part? I mean, let's get our leases in place so we know the revenue stream, and it's up to you and Joe to decide what y'all want to do with it.
Why wouldn't we keep it?
It may be worth selling. Somebody may pay you, the city, a significant sum of money. Technology changes pretty rapidly. In 20 years, I don't know if cell towers will be something that exists anymore. I don't know. So, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it. At least let's get the leases in place. So worst case scenario, we can hopefully collect $6,000, $6,500 a month as opposed to $1,600 a month. So that's worst case scenario. So.
I need a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And item E, how would you like me to read this?
I'll help you with it, just a consideration of approving a contract, 3-year contract with the PBA. And while I'm on that, they asked for 2 things. One was that because we got it to you before your next first meeting in October, that it go retroactive to October the 1st, and I wouldn't think that would be a big problem. Secondly, they asked that they, in essence, would be receiving a 2.5% guaranteed raise, and that there'd be a 1% merit. In other words, nobody would get less than a 0.5% merit. So it'd go up to 2.5 automatic, and then there'd be a 1% floater out there. It's still below what we, I think it says that, a 2% wage adjustment plus a minimum of 5, which is in essence a 2.5. You budgeted at 3, so the fiscal note isn't there. It just means that the merit has shrunk. And if that's all it took to get them off dead center, I think it was worth it. There's no fiscal note to you, and there was an $840 boot allowance.
Need a motion?
Move to approve. Second?
Any other discussion?
Just a question, it's my line of work. With merit, I assume if you have people on performance issues, that's documented in the contract.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's...
So they get a minimum of
some
5,
is worried
assuming
that
it...
they might not, because of attitude or something, receive anything.
Gotcha, okay. So, yeah.
Just so I'm clear, it's 2.5 regardless.
Right.
And then the merit can be 1.5. So that's a total of 4.
Maximum.
No, merit can be 1%.
1.5 maximum.
Yeah.
Right? So
So you're looking at
2.5.
I think they're saying it's 1.5 maximum, 0.5 of it's guaranteed. Is that what you're saying, Joe?
Right. And what it is, it's still 3.5. That would be then straight to 1%.
I'm reading it as supervisors would, in my language, supervisors would have 1% discretionary merit. As long as someone's performing minimally, they're going to get 2% across the board, 0.5% merit's already given. If they're performing well, they've got that discretion to do something with an extra percent.
You understand the difference?
I do.
The other unions were 2%.
Did I read that right?
1.5,
Yeah.
but they want to make sure they at least get a 0.5%. Well, if you're going to get a 0.5% for showing up.
Probably get 1.5%.
That's not.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 11, an unscheduled council member comments. Vice Mayor, start with you, please.
A couple things, please. I know November 3rd is the Volusia delegation. I believe that if we haven't got some money freed from FEMA, I know that's something, Joe, on behalf of the Volusia League, and I think.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up. The mayor and I were at the mayor's roundtable yesterday, and it was the agreement, as I understood it, that the mayors were going to get together and have one position on what to do about these hurricanes, and everybody speaks from that one position, including the county. This is what needs to happen. And of course, it'd help if you'd get a way of processing these. We're one of the few states left that have another FEMA review the state personnel. Everybody else got rid of it. That being said, I think as president of the League of Cities, it would be meritorious for you to stand up there and say the same thing.
Well, that's what I was asking, if you get some direction, because I'm already on the schedule to speak for Lucia League, which is the only thing Maryland has me discussing, which in the executive board is blessed, is the league's priorities. Well, I can blitz through that pretty quickly. So I'm sure in my 3 minutes, I could also spend more time on the FEMA piece. So.
All right, but we'll have you saying the same thing as the League of Cities.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, very good. A question I had from the comments that were earlier, on the backflow, how many of those are we talking about?
I forgot how many we ordered. 20? Do you remember?
Ballpark.
12.
Okay. All right. I just, for scope of, I didn't know that, so. And then the others, and I've had a conversation with the city attorney. So our tabled item on the moratorium, I know we'd had previous conversations in the past, and our moratorium and the timing and November, December meetings and all that's coming up. So let me propose this for conversation for some point of clarity for the council. Scott, if I understand it correctly, the moratorium would expire in December. So if it's the will of the council to, I'll say, allow, no action would necessarily be needed.
Doing nothing, it will expire in December, I believe. Is that right, Joe?
Whereas if there is a desire to put a ban on it, we would need to either extend the moratorium and let it go, and then have some, is it an ordinance or a resolution?
Ordinance.
Ordinance that would have to go through LDRB?
Correct.
To this council.
Yes. You don't have sufficient time to adopt any form of regulation on it before it expires. So the only option you really have is to extend it to give staff time to put the document together. It's not that complicated if you want to ban it, and then get it to the LDRB.
Correct.
And then back to you for 2 readings.
Because I wanted clarity, because I know one of the last times we had lengthy conversation about this was, how did we go with this, right? I mean, we were going to have like dueling ordinances, whether we wanted to go approval or not approval or something, but if it's going to die, it dies.
The moratorium, yeah, it expires on the date it's,
which
it
then,
it was for 12 months.
We would end up in the yes column for
Yes.
for all practical purposes without doing anything.
And the retail centers that are allowed would be basically going the same places that pharmacies are allowed.
And I know, speaking to at least one of the cities that were on there that's in the yes column, it was interesting, they put a different perspective, was they looked at it from a business practice standpoint, that is there some regulations, or is it guidance, I didn't quite get clarity, on how many residents can be in a community before. They were taking the approach that the businesses won't come in just because they simply won't find there's a market. That was kind of, if I may, the chicken way out of trying to make the decisions.
Here, I'm passing out to you all like a summary I did, sent to Joe and Ronnie of the new law. And I don't know if this answers your question or not, but the number of licenses that are issued is regulated by the state. And one of the things that I found interesting in it is that these retail establishments are owned by the license holder. You know, it's a vertical integration. You grow it, you cut it, you process it, manufacture it, sell it. It's all one thing. So there's 10 licenses that are authorized, and there were a couple more that were grandfathered in. But and for every 100,000 of qualified patients that go on to the state registry, another 5 more licenses can be issued. And for each license holder, you are, let's see, 25, 4 more can issue, yeah. And for each license holder can have 25 dispensaries. So say we have 10 dispensaries, or 10 licenses, you have 250 dispensaries statewide. And then there's a separate regulation. The state is broken into 5 regions. And each region can only have so many dispensaries, and it's based on the population of that region to the total population of the state. Our region is Brevard, Citrus, Hardy, Hernando, Indian River, Lake, Orange, Osceola, Pasco, Pinellas, Polk, Seminole, St. Lucie, Sumter counties, including Volusia County on top of that. So that's our region. So whatever the population is of that region, of the total population of the whole state, that's the percentage, the number of dispensaries we're allowed to have in that region. So if we're 25% of the state's population in that region, we get 25% of the dispensaries. 250 dispensaries, we get 25.
You said it's for every 100,000 patients?
Every 100,000 patients, 0 to 100,000, we have 10. Once you get over 100,000 registered, they get 4 more dispensary licenses. And then, once they get 100,000, you can go from 25 to 30. You get additional 5 dispensaries for each license. So right now, I don't know how many people are, if there is even a registry yet, but you're looking at a total dispensaries.
About 60 for that district, right?
For this entire region?
Well, you're looking at 250
For the state.
for the state.
And then
Yeah, that's what I was just doing the
it's
math, yeah.
25%.
Well, that was my, I don't know what the population is. Hypothetically, if we're 25%, that would be 62, 63 dispensaries in all those counties. Now, we may be a greater percentage, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then as the numbers, when you get to 100,000 qualified patients, that number kind of jumps, because first you get 4 more licenses, and now each one gets 30 dispensaries. So the 4 more licenses get you 120 more dispensaries, and then your existing dispensaries go from 25 to 30. So that's another 50. So on top of that. You understand?
Well, and I understand why they haven't released the FEMA money, because they've been trying to do this calculation. So,
I can tell you why they're not releasing FEMA money. It's called interest. So,
okay.
so that's...
Well, that probably answers the question, because, again, it's an esteemed colleague from one of the cities north of here that I thought was going to the no camp, and they basically, like, giving their secret to it, they were going to go to the north camp, but they thought that there just wouldn't end up being any in their city anyway. And it's like,
It's pretty,
it's like, well, that was an issue.
there's so few. When it was first coming out, and before they drafted the law, and they're just having the amendment, you read the amendment, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, they're going to be in 7-Eleven, they're going to be in the Handyway, they're going to be in, the gas station selling this stuff, and they really, really cracked down on on how these things operate.
But this is done by the health department,
Yeah, I think so.
which could be influenced by the next governor.
It could be changed.
Well, but once they change, also
You know where I'm going with that,
understand
'cause
our decision to
government-
ban isn't now or never. If a challenge to this law or the law changes, we can say, all right, now we're banning it. Now, any that's in here get grandfathered, but we can ban them prospectively for any more.
We had, 2 interested, Joe? 2
I
people?
don't think they've come back. Excuse me, Mr. Dillon. Excuse me for interrupting y'all's conversation. Did you have any more inquiries for medical marijuana dispensaries? Just yes or no?
No, sir. No, I have not
Thank you.
received any since the last couple, 3 months.
I think the law curtailed it a lot. There was, people were trying to get things opened. They thought they were going to be able to do it anywhere, and all of a sudden this law came down and really slammed the door pretty harshly on. It's heavily regulated, and it's not a poor person's business. I mean, the application fee is almost $70,000 to the state just to apply to get the license. You don't even get the license; just the application fee is like $60,000 or $70,000. So it's big business. It really is, and everything's indoors. I mean, the grow house. It's not a farm. It's all cut. It's all indoor growing. The laws, I can get it to you if you want to read it. It's very, very detailed. Now, if they change the law, then we come back and say, oh, this is a little different now. We can reevaluate whether we want to ban it.
Well, one thing I was bringing up in my portion of the comments is, what's our direction? I know there was some energy here at the council. This definitely was, not especially for us, not a unanimous type of thing. And I just wasn't completely comfortable just letting a moratorium go. So I said, we either need to go up or down with it, and that was some of the direction that I was seeking from the city attorney on.
Well, I anticipated this late,
Right.
so we were able to get a survey before all of you have it on what your colleagues up and down Halifax have done and where they stand.
Well, based on the survey that I see here, there's plenty of places that can go buy it outside of our city.
Yeah.
I was concerned until I see all these yeses, so I'm not concerned with letting the moratorium expire, personally.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said I was concerned when I didn't see any yeses in our last discussions, but now that there's all these yeses there, I don't see where the concern was that we would have an influx of dispensaries because might have been the only one in the neighboring communities. So I'm not concerned with letting the moratorium expire. That's my own personal opinion.
I personally don't see me changing my viewpoint. After 35 years, I just can't say yes.
But our voters want it.
I'm not disagreeing.
I know, but the majority here want it.
Here's my struggle, and I have had this conversation with numerous colleagues in other cities at league events. When the citizens vote something in, okay, especially this city, we know what 150 words looks like on a ballot. We fought against that with FPL, we fought against lots of different things. I'm not sold that means that they want it on their street corner. Let me use casino gambling. I believe I will live the day when Florida passes casino gambling. Could be wrong. That doesn't mean that I think most people want it in the 7-Eleven. Use your scenario of selling it in the 7-Eleven. So I struggle with that. Again, yes, 75% of the voters wanted it. Yes, and then I have my own personal thing. So I hear you. I know what you're saying. I think we have a limited business corridor. We regulate thrift shops. We regulate pawn shops.
Motorcycle sales, car sales.
This is something, he has his, if I may speak for the mayor, he has his reasons. I kind of have my and I hear what you're saying, but I sometimes, that just have my.
I'll just throw out my 2 cents of what I think. I didn't vote for the amendment. I didn't agree with it. But what do I think is going to happen? It's got to change. Where we are right now in the law makes 0 sense.
Right.
You can't federally prohibit something at the state level allowed.
Absolutely.
So either the federal government's going to say, look, we trump you. And Trump may or may not say that, but we trump you.
It's still a controlled one legal substance.
Yeah, it's still illegal. These things then go away. Or what's going to happen is the federal government's going to say, okay, states, you regulate it. And then what's going to happen is these licenses are going to become a nullity as well, because now you're going to have Merck, all these big drug companies get into it. They're not in it right now because of the federal government. Correct. And then it will be sold by the Walgreens and the CVS's and everything else. So it's going to go one way or another. I can't see it long-term staying the way it is, because it just makes no sense.
Well, and then every state that has passed it, I think, within 2 years for recreational. And that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yeah, that's totally different.
That's a whole nother conversation. But that speaks to another reason why you've heard me say from up here. My personal thing, I just don't want to be the tip of the sword on this thing. I want everything to play out. Sometimes, as the old expression, let the game come to you. Again, I'm not philosophically against it for medicinal purposes. I just am looking at our corridor and what do we want on Ridgewood. And a little bit on Nova and a little bit on Bevel, but again. So, I just want to throw it out there, whether we're just going to let this thing expire. If not, time is of the essence. And again, not to speak for the mayor, but I think him and I were speaking of like-minded here, so.
It certainly is of the essence, because to amend an ordinance, you have to bring another ordinance. So we have 2 meetings left.
Yeah.
So really the question is, do you want to extend this or let it expire?
Right.
And the reason for extending it is for staff to put together an ordinance to bring it back to you, realistically banning it, because I don't think I haven't heard anybody wanting to further restrict pharmacies, because that's the only other option.
And I understand that's what New Smyrna is going to do, even though they're in the yes column. So again, but if the energy's for letting the moratorium expire, then why go through all that exercise? I just,
Let it expire. Okay.
So.
Is it out of the realm to take a poll as to which way we need to go with this? I mean, I don't see a reason to put staff through undue work.
That's what I just said.
If the inevitable
If it's 3-2, and,
Right.
yeah, absolutely, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
Just direction for staff. If you just start down one and you want us to let it expire
Expire.
or draft a new
Expire.
ordinance, that's
So you're
all I
speaking
need.
for Ralph now?
Expire.
Okay, 2 expires.
Well, then,
I know you are.
let me just ask, so then if it expires, then we bring it up to a vote on,
No,
No,
it's
no.
expired.
It-
just
it- it'll-
expire.
they-
It's legal.
It'll be allowed where pharmacies are. We'll treat it just like a pharmacy.
right? And I guess I just, as I listened to everyone's comments, when we went to the League of Cities, the day before the conference actually started, they had a free workshop that was actually 4 or 5 hours long, a symposium, and I don't know how, if you didn't get a chance to go to it, I would recommend the council to at least try to look that up online. But I think we keep overlooking the fact that this is medicinal. And when I was at that symposium, they had the companies that produce this medicinal marijuana, and they have so many safeguards on it, and even the pharmacies that do, or the dispensaries that do exist, it was incredible, the security that was available, and they showed you each of these, how they produce it, how they strain it, and they purify it so that the hallucinatory, or what the makes you high, that's taken out of it. And we are talking about medicinal purposes for people that have cancer and are very ill. And I guess I just think that people are overlooking that is what we're talking about here. Medicinal marijuana, tightly regulated, and it's for people that really need some pain, or if you're on chemo, some kind of pain relief. And it's not to make you high, it's to make you pain-free. And so, I mean, I'm just throwing that out because I was very impressed at the symposium, and when they showed the different manufacturers and all the steps they go through and all of the security. As Scott said, these things are produced, it's grown inside, they have security guards, and I mean, they really make all efforts to make this not like you're going to go and break in and get pot and go out and get high. It's, so that's just my reaction to the comments. So,
Are you an expiration?
Are you an expire or?
yeah, I guess so.
So you want to let it expire, and then that would mean that they would be allowed at wherever pharmacies. They would be
Okay.
regulated like pharmacies in our cities. That's your position.
So staff direction is 3 of you would like for the ordinance just to expire, the moratorium, and 2 of you would like to have something brought back to you. So right now, it looks like it is on an expiration schedule. And that's important to us, because I'm back and forth, and I understand both sides of it.
Right.
Okay.
And I appreciate the time, because I did not want to spend on this time with staff, running through an LDRB and all that stuff, but,
And we needed a heads up.
yeah, so, thank you. I hijacked it enough, I'm done.
You done?
I'm done.
Okay. All right.
Councilwoman Long?
Okay, it's my turn. First of all, again, thanks for the city cleanup. Driving through other cities, I'm not naming them, but it's appalling that so little has been picked up. And we're talking especially on the riverfront. I also want to commend, there was a big mobile home fire behind us where we live at Candlelight, and our firemen and even our policemen were there, quickly responded. The 2 people living in that are safe. In fact, I've been in contact with them to make sure everything is okay. I'm really upset about the people that were here today, and I know, Joe, we talked about the backflow preventers,
New pumps. And I would like to do another video of that collection system to see how porous it is. I know
Yeah.
we have what do you call that?
In situ form.
Yeah, the whole thing, some years ago, to tighten it up, that's a new liner inside. We'll do another video of it. You know, and I hate it for them. And I know these people, and I don't like it when they're mad at me. And when they're mad at me, they're mad at you. And I just simply, it's a tough one. I think that these new pumps are moving faster, but they got to be on. So the secret is to keep it from backing up the homes. And I think these backflow preventers, if they do what they say they'll do, will keep this stuff, when the system's inundated, from getting into the homes. But
Yeah, absolutely. It's
I don't
a
know
good
what else
move.
to do.
Well, where are the black, because I was doing a little research, and I understand that they now have something that could actually be put into each home. It costs about $75, and I guess it's a backflow preventer that
That's what we're doing.
And we're only
That's what I
getting...
just said.
I know, but we're only getting 12 of them, and we had how many houses? I mean, where would these be put?
We didn't have 4 or 5 that registered it. We ordered 12. And what we're going to do is shoot the elevations. Nancy. We can
Okay.
tell you based on the elevation in the collection system on who's prone to have it backed up. But it's not easy. I mean, it's not just going out there and digging a little hole and putting them in. They have to be connected to these, where the sewer goes into our collection system, from their home into our system.
Okay, and that's what I mean, so each
individual one of them
individual.
will have a valve that allows it to go one way.
Okay.
Now, you know, there was also a lot of statements, and I wish David was still here, David Butler, but talking about the city has altered the flow. What we've got are higher tides than we used to. And I don't know if it's, if it's, you know, the greenhouse effect or not, but by golly, water's coming through these, between these homes. We could put flat valves on the river, and I think Councilman Schroeder will tell you, it won't stop it from coming between the homes. These homes were built at an elevation that worked for years, but they're not going to work with that river rising the way it is and the water rising the way it is in the next couple of generations, in my opinion.
Well, that's...
So we can't fix that, but we can try everything possible to stop the
Yeah,
flow.
yeah, and the backflow preventers are a good idea where we can't hold the river back. I wish we could.
Right.
I really wish we could.
Is there any, if I can ask, is there any merit to what he was talking about with the condo?
No.
It goes down Palmetto?
The system can handle it easily. And I'm not even sure, does it go down Palmetto?
There's 2 pump stations between the condos and pump station 1 that it has to go through. So it's repetitively pumping. I think what happened on South Palmetto in that northern area is the system got flooded, the whole system was inundated. And then the pump station upstream of that was still pumping and pressurized that whole system, and number 1 wasn't moving it out fast enough.
I see what you're saying. So the pump station to the south was pressurizing the system, and the big pump station to the north was shut down.
And these backflow preventers will solve that.
We only got 4 calls from Palmetto?
I'm sorry?
You only got 4 calls?
I think that's all we had from the flood in the home.
4 claims.
Yeah, that's
4
all we're
claims?
reporting.
Well, we also had it in Gulfview area. Very limited, but...
One on West and one on Black.
And both of those didn't really, I don't know what happened there, because the system was working, the power went out, there might have been a lag in it, it was flooded down there in the room. But we got enough, I think, to make an earnest start, and the elevations will show us where we're prone for that to happen. Some of these homes, the newer homes are built higher, and they're not as prone, so they're going to seek the lowest elevation when it starts doing that. Yeah, this isn't any consolation of those poor folks down there, but we're not the only city that experienced this.
Well, and you know, it would be good to, I guess, reach out to the people. There may be more homes flooded, because I'm trying to think of any phone calls I had, and I don't know the 4 that were reported, so we'll have to check.
We can tell, Nancy, from the elevations on who's prone to have it. But I can tell you, what was it, 60 homes that we think took
And
water
stormwater, yes.
on the river?
but maybe only 4 that we think, or 12 since we have the prevention, backflow preventers, 12 that actually had the sewage. Yeah. Well, and I think all of us, you know, I sit at TPO and you go to some of these meetings, and there is a big denial about any sea level rise, but whether it's caused by whatever purposes, but I do think that our city is wise if we start to think about ways that we can control it, because as Joe said, and as all of us know, the river rising and the flooding is becoming more common, and I think we need to see that maybe that's the way it's going to be from now on and start to think of some measures. I like Miami and that people are starting to try to come up with ways that we can be prepared for the river rise and the sea level rise. So that's all I'm saying is we need to think ahead. So that's it.
No additional comments.
Same comments on the water issue. It's heartbreaking, going through it on a personal level with my daughter, so I know exactly what's going on. But again, there's no good way to hold the river back. When we have a wind field like this last hurricane, it was just huge, and it persisted for so long, it just kept pushing that water in. One thing I wanted to mention last time, I heard a number of people say that Publix did a fantastic job getting back up in operation and supplying food and having all the help there when everybody finally got out of their homes and needed food. So just want to put a plug in for Publix.
Thank you. I only have a couple things. Park cleanup, thank y'all, every one of you, for coming out. And it was awesome, and we got it done in, what, 2 hours or less? Mm-hmm. The movie night, if you'll let Dave know, because I see he's not here, what a great opportunity that was. I know that it was debatable Thursday night whether or not we were going to have it. Citizens Alert Dave couldn't give us an answer, but there was 300 people there, easy, very successful. I appreciate that. I want to digress just a little bit on the marijuana issue. I'm all about medical marijuana. I'm all about making people feel more comfortable in pain, and whatever it takes, I go along with. But I saw it in Seattle, and I've seen it in Denver, and I just know what's coming down the pike, and I just can't in clear conscience get that out of my head. And lastly, at the mayor's roundtable yesterday, it was brought up that former Mayor Glenn Ritchie he and his wife have stepped up to donate $100,000 in matching money for the Council on Aging. And I asked Mr. Yarbrough to get us a figure of how many people in our city are affected or benefit on a daily basis, and it's just under 50 people, give or take, where they live. It's done by zip codes, and the zip code shows, I think it's like 45 people a day get benefits from the Council on Aging, and then there's another 20 that get meals delivered to them. And you know, I'd kind of like to put some of our money where Mr. Ritchie's money is and make him double it. And I don't know, I was just kind of thinking if you spent $5 a meal for those 20 people, that's $100 a week, 50 weeks. What's that, $5 grand?
I was at the mayor's meeting when Bill heard what Glenn Ritchie had done. And what I think you need to realize is that the Beach Street Council on Aging office flooded. They're in the process of relocating. They did good to get these numbers together. And it's just our area code. As you know, our area code goes a little further west, so it's not just our citizens. But have a family member that has been a recipient of the Council on Aging, not Meals on Wheels, but has babysat for me in the past. It's not in our faces unless you've got someone that needs it. And it does a wonderful job. And I mentioned to Bill, I said, Bill, you know, you've got $55,000 in discretionary money. Why don't you put up $5,000 and that makes $10,000 that will go to it. Make sure, you know, they understand we want to help you into this time. It's just a thought, and don't feel bad if you decide not to do it. But Bill asked a good question, and we got the numbers as quick as we could from yesterday, and there's quite a few, and this is just Meals on Wheels. What about all the other services they have available? If you have a family member that has Alzheimer's, they have twice-a-week program for them, to where your caregiver can get a break, go shopping or something, get out of the house. And it's a little stuff they offer that makes it a little softer landing for us sitting in this room, much less we that may someday be needing it. That's my 2 cents worth. But if you want us to do that, it's within my spending threshold. It'd be nice if you went on record, Mr. Mayor, and just see if anybody objects, and if not, I'm going to draft a letter tomorrow and pledge $5,000, and get it to them and say the council wanted to step up.
I don't have a problem with that. I think it's...
Yeah, you're mid-close.
Yeah.
Betty happy.
Right.
Okay. Is that all right, Mr. Mayor?
That works for me.
Okay.
Works for y'all. I think it's worth money well spent, but. Anybody else have anything to say? Meeting adjourned.